All right, everybody. Good morning to you. Happy Saturday. It's Carson Meredith here in the Wave Weather Now studios. Hope you're well. Here we go. This is it. This is the real deal. Winter storm warning now in place, as we expected would take place, as we would expect to see an upgrade, and that has happened earlier this morning. We're going to give you an update on where things stand now, and we'll look ahead to those snow and ice accumulation forecast, because there's been some minor tweaks, if you will, to where we think the heaviest axis of ice is going to wind up. Very minor tweaks, but as you guys know, in these kind of setups, it only takes 10 or 20 miles to cause some drastic changes when it comes to how much of you see, how much of whatever you might see, ice, snow, sleet, freezing rain, whatever. So let's jump into it. I've bumped up the start time of the alert day a couple of hours. If you're watching us last night, yesterday we said 9 a.m. Sunday. I bumped it up to 7 a.m. And the reason why is because as we get more high-resolution data coming in, it looks like we might start seeing snow as early as 7 o'clock in the morning. So for that reason, the alert day kicks in at 7 a.m. We're still going to keep it in place until 8 o'clock Monday night. Most of the snow will be gone by that point, but obviously the roads will likely still be a complete mess throughout the entire day on Monday. All right, here's the winter storm warning in that brighter shade of pink. So basically, every single county in Wave Country, aside from Adair, poor Adair County is always getting left out this go-round. Everybody except Adair County is now under the winter storm warning. There's some small variations with the timing, but we're just going to say Sunday morning until Monday afternoon to keep things nice and simple. Winter storm warning is in place. You look at the dark pink shades out here to our west, out towards Evansville, even up towards Owensboro. If my drawing tool will work, there we go. That is an ice storm warning for western Kentucky and southern Illinois. Now, you're probably wondering, now, wait a minute, why do we not have an ice storm warning here? Keep in mind, with winter storm warnings, it's kind of a catch-all. In other words, winter storm warnings could be exclusively focused on snow if they have to be, but they can also be issued for a combination of everything. And that's exactly what we have in store here with this winter storm. So for that reason, it's a winter storm warning for everybody except Adair County. If you're watching us in Columbia this morning, you guys are under a winter weather advisory, and that's mainly just because we expect the impacts to be slightly, and emphasize slightly, lower further to our south across southern Kentucky. I see the comments are blowing up already this morning. Looks like a lot of you are up wanting to know what's happening. I'm going to hold off on the comments until I get through where things stand, and then I might answer a few questions before I have to go back on TV at 8:30. So here's the general timeline. This really has not changed much. We're going to start things off tomorrow morning around this time with a band of snow. Everybody in Wave Country will start off with snow Sunday morning. It could be heavy. There might be some pockets of heavier snow tomorrow morning in the mix. We'll watch for some ice or freezing rain or a wintry mix, whatever it might be, farther to the south, maybe into our far southern communities tomorrow morning. I don't think that's a huge risk right out of the gate. It's something we'll watch, though. More than anything else, we'll start off tomorrow morning with snow, all snow everywhere. All right? Then we get into Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. That's when that warmer air aloft above our heads starts to move in. And that's when the wintry mix begins, especially if you live along Interstate 64, so including here in Louisville, and maybe one county north of I-64 down towards E-Town. So in that Jeffersonville to E-Town zone, let's say it that way. That's when we'll start to see that wintry mix take over. It will initially be kind of a snow and sleet mix, and then it will likely change to freezing rain. And that's when conditions will really start to go downhill. That's tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. Now, if you live further north of Louisville, it still looks like all snow with maybe a little sleet at some point. But there doesn't look to be much of a freezing rain concern the further north of Louisville you are. So if you're up towards Seymour, maybe even Scottsburg and Madison, your risk for any kind of freezing rain is lower. So that's Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. That's when the road conditions will really start to deteriorate. And then as we get into Monday morning, so close to sunrise Monday morning, we'll keep it simple. That colder air will rush back in. And that's when that wintry mix or freezing rain goes back to all snow for everybody. And then we'll finally end this mess as we get towards Monday afternoon. So everybody is going to see winter weather at some point throughout this event. But depending on where you are, depends on how much winter weather you see and when and what type. It's very much a mixed bag of a winter storm, no question about that. There's that timeline more specific for you, kind of broken down. Again, we start things off tomorrow morning with all snow for everybody. Notice how those snow chances climb very quickly from basically nothing at 5 a.m. to full-on snow for everybody by 9 or 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Then we see that transition to the mix or freezing rain. Here in Louisville, I would say possibly as early as 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon is when we could go to that mix or freezing rain. And models are still suggesting, especially the high-resolution models, that we get a good dry slot that moves in here late tomorrow night. If we get that dry slot, that would be a massive, massive help because that would kind of keep that ice accumulation or that ice accretion, whatever you want to call it, that would keep that in check just a little bit. Will it keep us completely out of the ice concern? No, but we'll take whatever breaks we can get. So we may see a little bit of drier air moving in after midnight Sunday night before we get into that backside of the system. And as that moves in, we'll see another slug of snow Monday morning into Monday afternoon. So a lot of ups and downs, a lot of different precipitation types with this winter storm. That has not changed. And really, there's no major changes with our forecast this morning. But what I will tell you as we go through Futurecast, if you were watching us last night or any point yesterday, we were talking about how the models were trending a tick south with the worst of the ice. Now we've got a split decision looking at some of the overnight data. There are now some models that are wanting to bring that ice back further to the north, which would get it closer again to I-64, closer to Louisville. But there are also some models that keep the worst of the ice down towards the parkways. So we're still walking a very fine line with our forecast. We don't want to totally discount one idea versus another. We're kind of shooting down the middle at this stage of the game because we're still 24 hours out, and this will continue to be adjusted. Okay, here's Futurecast though. 10:30 tomorrow morning. It is all snow. All right, here comes the transition. Now note the time. This is around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We've got a mix with freezing rain across central and southern Kentucky. We've still got primarily snow, possibly some sleet up towards Louisville, up into southern Indiana. That transition line will continue to push north through the afternoon. The million-dollar question that is really going to decide how this winter storm plays out is how far north does that wintry mix go? How far north can it go? The further north it goes, the lower our snow totals will be. If it stays a little further south, then those snow totals could really ramp up, especially near I-64. For now, it looks like, based on this slightly more northerly track, this northerly jog, that we could see that freezing rain get as far north as maybe, let's say, Jeffersonville, up towards Salem, Scottsburg, Paoli. That's kind of the battle line, if you will, of where the wintry mix stops and where it goes to all snow. But I caution, that has already changed this morning. It's already gone north 10 or 20 miles this morning. It could go back south 10 or 20 miles later on today. And it could keep changing, guys. There's going to be a lot of adjustments with where we nail down where that most intense ice is going to fall. And that kind of gives us a snowball effect, no pun intended. Well, maybe pun intended. Where the wintry mix lands decides how much snow we get and where versus how much ice we get and where. But you notice Sunday evening, I mean, if you don't have to be out Sunday night, don't. Please. Just stay home because the roads will become a mess. We will see freezing rain here in the city, in the metro, down towards central Kentucky tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. But you look down towards southern Kentucky, our far southern communities, Hart, Greene, Taylor, and Adair counties, there is a distinct possibility, a very good chance, that you go to a cold, plain rain Sunday evening. Now, here's another wrench in this forecast that I've noticed this morning. There are some models, not all of them, but there are some that want to bring a cold, plain rain. So no freezing rain here, a cold, good old-fashioned rain as far north as E-Town and Lebanon Junction tomorrow evening. So right where I'm drawing this line, that's where we might see a cold rain take over. If that's the case, that would potentially be a bust scenario for our friends in central Kentucky. I'm not totally sold on that just yet, but it is something that I've noticed looking at the overnight data that I don't want to ignore. What I am confident in is we will see significant icing close to I-64, including here in Louisville. And depending on how far north that wintry mix goes, or how further south it stays, we may still see significant amounts of snow in parts of southern Indiana. But again, the smallest difference, guys, in how much warm air we get above our heads is going to decide who sees a lot of ice, how far north that ice goes, and then in turn, who sees the most snow and when and how much. So a lot of things still at play. And we can't ignore that chance for a cold rain to get this far north up towards E-Town. I'm not totally sold on it from now, but it's a possibility. We go into Sunday night, wintry mix, freezing rain continues here in the metro, basically along I-64. If you want me to get a little more specific, from Scottsburg to E-Town. If you live in that circled zone, that's where I think the worst of the icing is going to take place at this stage of the game. Meanwhile, a cold rain continues in our southern counties. You kind of notice a little bit of that cold rain sneaking into E-Town right here Sunday night, which would be good in a way in that it would limit the ice accretion down south. It would allow it to wash off a little bit, but we'd still have a black ice concern, right? Keep going through the night. That freezing rain continues before it eventually transitions to all snow after sunrise Monday morning for everybody. And then we will finally see this snow get a move on late Monday afternoon, it looks like. Might want to linger, will that snow just a little bit longer into Monday. Here's where things stand now. I'm going to take this full screen so you guys can see it better. I have nudged the most intense ice, if you will. This zone I'm circling right here, just a smidge back to the north, based on what we've seen overnight. In that zone, so Corydon, Brandenburg, Hardinsburg, Shepherdsville, Bardstown, Taylorsville, Shelbyville, and of course here in Louisville, we will see, based on our current forecast, a quarter to a half inch of ice. But also in that zone, we could see amounts higher than a half inch of ice. that would obviously be enough to cause significant travel issues, if not make travel completely impossible Sunday evening into Monday. But that would also mean that that zone, including here in the metro, would be at the greatest risk for power outages. And obviously, we don't say this to scare you guys at all, but we just want to inform you that this is going to be very, very, very impactful if this forecast holds. Further to the north, Bedford, Seymour, North Vernon, Madison, Scottsburg, Salem, Paoli. You guys are not going to see as much ice. Could you see some? Oh, yeah, for sure. But it will not be quite as much. We're talking 1/10 to maybe 1/4 inch of ice. Further to the south of the parkways, basically. Mumfordville, Greensburg, Campbellsville, Columbia, Lebanon, Springfield, Hodgenville. You will not see as much ice either, around 1/10 to maybe 1/4 inch. But keep in mind, like we talked about, if we get more of that plain cold rain moving in our southern counties Sunday evening, that would be a huge help as far as kind of limiting that ice impact, because it would allow some of that ice to, well, basically not freeze. If we get some colder rain, or if we just get plain rain, that'll get the temperatures above freezing, keep things from freezing on contact down to the south. But for the time being, we expect the worst of the icing to be from, let's say, from Scottsburg, where I'm drawing this line up at the top, down towards Mumfordville and Campbellsville. In that zone, if you live in this zone, right through here, you will likely see at least 1/4 inch of ice. And it's this darker pink zone, including here in Louisville, where we could see over 1/2 inch of ice in a few spots. And that would cause significant issues with travel and cause a lot of power outages too. That's the ice story. When we look at the snowfall, I haven't adjusted this a lot. Now, you would think if I move the ice, the worst of the ice further north, I do the same with the snow. I'm not ready to do that necessarily, because some models, actually quite a few models, are suggesting that when the snow starts tomorrow morning, it could be heavy. And that might allow that snow to accumulate rather quickly. So for the time being, I'm going to keep the snowfall forecast largely as it is. Much lower total south of the parkways. Litchfield, E-Town, Bardstown, Lebanon, Campbellsville, Mumfordville, Greensburg, Columbia. If you live near any of those towns, you're not going to see much snow out of this. Maybe 1 to 2 inches along the parkways. If you live further south than the parkways, maybe a dusting or 1/2 inch. That's really all I can give you at this stage of the game. If you live here along I-64, right now I'm going to keep it at 4 to 6 inches for the metro. But I will caution, if we see those more intense snowfall rates Sunday morning, we could easily see 6 to 8 inches of snow in the city. And that is a distinct possibility. But right now, we want to keep it nice and consistent. Wait until we get more clarity among all the forecast guidance, and then we'll make those adjustments as we see fit. The highest snowfall amounts, no doubt about it, will be in southern Indiana. From Jeffersonville points north, we're looking at a solid 6 to 12 inches of snow. Again, as we mentioned, if you live in southern Indiana, the further north you live from Louisville, the better chance you will see all snow out of this. And that's why we have the highest snowfall amounts to the north. And again, we get the heavier snowfall rates tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon, excuse me, then we might be able to bump up those totals a little further south towards I-64. So again, no huge changes with our forecast this morning. Some minor adjustments bringing the ice a little further north. The big thing now is to see how these models kind of decipher this pocket of warmer air that moves in. You know, if it gets too warm at the surface, we could see a cold rain for much of Kentucky. But I'm not ready to totally say that just yet. I do believe we will see significant amounts of ice, especially along I-64 and down towards the parkways. And then we will see a lot of snow, heavy snow, as we get up towards southern Indiana. That's where things stand at this point. Let me see if I can answer a few questions. I'm not going to be able to look through them all because we'll be back on TV here in about 25 minutes. Well, let's see. Appreciate so many of you guys tuning in so early this morning. A lot of early birds out there. Love it. Let's see. Lauren says, good morning. Thanks for keeping us updated. Of course, that's our job. That's our job. Not a lot of sleep around here the next couple of days, I can tell you that. Taylor's watching us in Carrollton. Dave is watching us in Carrollton. Very nice. Let's see. Marianne asked, will this be a powdery snow or a wet snow? It looks like it's going to be a little more on the powdery side. Not a lot, but it will be a little fluffier. But again, if it falls at very heavy rates, it's going to add up pretty quickly. But it's leaning towards more of a powdery snow at this point. That could change. That could certainly change. We expecting snow, then ice, then snow again, Nancy asks. Depending on where you are, yes. I think here in the metro, that is very likely what's going to happen, where we start things off with snow tomorrow morning. We go to that freezing rain or wintry mix tomorrow afternoon. That stays until tomorrow night. And then by Monday morning, we go back to snow. If you live further to the south, it'll start as snow, then go to freezing rain, and then go back to snow, right? The area that might stay all snow throughout this entire event is those far northern areas you see on this snowfall map, up towards Scottsburg, Salem, Paoli, Seymour, Madison, Bedford. And that's why the snowfall forecast up there is much higher. But here in Louisville, for sure, Nancy, no doubt about it, we'll start with snow, then go to freezing rain or ice, and then go back to snow. Good question. Let's see. Lisa says, thanks for the update. Not looking forward to this. No, I don't think any of us are. Again, if you don't have to be out tonight, or excuse me, Sunday night, just stay home, lay low. We got Sunday Night Football on Wave tomorrow night, so you can watch that game, and we'll have updates during that game as well tomorrow evening. But we'll make sure you'll be able to watch the game too, no question. Let's see. Am I going to be solo all day today, or is anybody else coming in? We've got a full plan, a very detailed plan with how we're handling the staffing situation. It's just me this morning. It will be just me for the shows this evening. There's a chance the boss might join me tonight here on Wave Weather Now, Kevin Harnett. So we'll see how that plays out. Fingers crossed we can get that sorted out. But in the station today, it's just me. Kevin will be in with me tomorrow evening. Brian is going to come in tomorrow night. So we're all going to be here in some way, shape, or form as we get through this winter storm. Let's see. Shelly's asking about Bardstown. It's going to be lower snow amounts for Bardstown, greater concern for ice. 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice is possible for Bardstown at this point. And again, guys, a lot of you will see a lot of us are going to see everything out of this winter storm. But you may not see a lot of both. You'll see a lot of one thing and not much of the other. So you might see a lot of ice, freezing rain, but you may not get much snow. 1, 2, 3, or 4 inches. On the other hand, especially in southern Indiana, you may not see a lot of ice, if any, but you get a ton of snow. So you're really not going to see, I don't think, a sweet spot of a ton of snow and a ton of ice. That would just be a big mess. Big mess like it already is. Let's see. See, Marilyn's asking about when the ice will come into Louisville. Around lunchtime tomorrow. I would say early afternoon, Sunday. So 1, 2, 3 o'clock is when that freezing rain potential really comes into the city on Sunday. Shelby County, same thing. Julie is asking about Shelby County. And remember, guys, we love y'all. We love y'all dearly. But there's thousands of little towns in wave country. If we went town by town by town by town, we would literally be here for hours on end. And we just don't have that time, I'm afraid. That's why it's so important to make sure you know where you live on a map, okay? Know what county you live in. Let's see. And again, if you missed anything from this video, give it about 5 minutes, wherever you're watching it, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. And the video will pop back up and you can watch it recorded in case you missed something, okay? Let's see. This is actually a good question. Isaac's asking on Twitter. We're kind of conservative on our snowfall forecast south of the river. Why is that the case? We don't speak for what other folks around the city are saying. That's not we focus on our lane, if you will. We're kind of keeping that snowfall total conservative because for areas south of the river down towards the parkways, it could be a couple of things in play. It could be that we see more ice down in that area, but the real wild card is going to be if we get that cold plain rain in the mix Sunday evening, and that would really cut down on the snowfall totals right out of the gate. There'll be still more snow coming in Monday down there, like it will be for everybody, but that's why the snowfall totals are a little lower to the south, because there's going to be a good amount of time where we just see that wintry mix or just plain rain down near the parkways and points south. So I hope that makes sense. Austin asks, is it possible to see higher snow totals in Louisville with less amounts of ice? Yes, 100%. I think that scenario would be for less ice if the worst of the ice was further south of I-64 instead of right on I-64 like it is now. And more snow would be, words, I'm tired. There would be more snow if we saw those heavier snowfall rates early in the day on Sunday. But yeah, it's definitely in play. And there's going to be a lot of tweaks to this forecast throughout the entire day tonight, and into the early part of the day tomorrow as this thing is really getting going. All right, I can take one or two more questions, and then I got to go do TV again. Let's see. Excuse me. Michelle asks, is there a time you'd recommend coming back from Indiana if you live in Louisville? Michelle, not sure what part of Indiana you're in. The earlier in the day tomorrow, the better. Everywhere. Not just Louisville, everywhere. Again, I think that transition to that freezing rain or that wintry mix will occur early afternoon Sunday, 1, 2, 3 o'clock, somewhere in that ballpark. And that's when the road conditions are going to start to go downhill. It'll be snowing Sunday morning, so we might already have a few road issues by then, but the significant travel issues will be Sunday afternoon past 1, 2, 3 o'clock. So hope that answers your question there, Michelle. Danny says, boring weekend for the weather team. Yeah, right. It seems like the weather's always been crazy on weekends recently. I'm tired, man. I need a break. It's been like 3 or 4 straight weeks with active weather on weekends, but that's okay. It's Mother Nature, right? Let's end on this question. I like it. Jessica says her son's wondering if the snow will be good to make a snowman. You know what? If you live north of Louisville, no doubt about it, it'll be good to make a snowman, I think. Not necessarily because it's powdery or not, but because you're going to see a lot of it in southern Indiana. Down towards Louisville, there's a decent chance you can make a good snowman out of this. Yeah. It might be a little bit of an icy snowman with some of that ice in play, but this is the best snowstorm we've had here for a while, the best winter storm we've had around here in quite some time. And we just want to make sure you guys are in the know, since it's been a while since we've had a storm like this. So we're going to keep giving you updates on the Wave Weather app all day. There'll be another update coming out on the app probably close to 10 o'clock. All right. We'll be back here on Wave Weather Now probably around 2:30 or 3 this afternoon. Okay. So we'll have another update just like this at about 2:30 to 3 o'clock. Or you can watch us on Wave News on TV, be old school, and watch us on the good old-fashioned TV here in about 15 minutes for our next newscast coming up here at 8:30. And Carrie, I appreciate you calling this out. Yes, I will win the contest. The rookie wins the contest. I said January 4th. That is today. I'm going to miss it by a day, but that's better than everybody else's guess. When it comes to that, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right? But yes, I will win that contest, and I'm pretty excited about it. All right, guys. That's where things stand at the moment. I appreciate you all watching. I'll leave you with that snowfall potential. But again, the main impact, I believe, especially here in the metro, is going to be ice. There will still be subtle adjustments with this forecast, really over the next 24 hours and up until this winter storm is happening. So stay tuned for more updates in the hours ahead. Our next update will be on TV in 15 minutes at 8:30. And then we will have another update here on Wave Weather Now at approximately 2:30 or 3 o'clock this afternoon. Appreciate you guys watching. Enjoy the quiet weather today. Make sure you get those preps done. And I'll see you again later on. Here's the 10-day real quick before I forget. Once we get this winter storm out of here, the focus is the cold. With highs in the teens, lows in the single digits for sure. We might have some lows below 0 too. So that's something to keep in mind. We'll deal with that then. For now, we'll just focus on this winter storm. Another update coming for you on Wave Weather Now this afternoon. Another update on the TV side of things in just a few minutes. See you then. Talk soon. Bye-bye.